Biloxi blues, it happens every night.
Every old night.
And I ain't never met a riverboat dealer that could ever be a friend of mine. Summer heat never treats me kind, it leaves trouble on my mind. So I'm bidding farewell, putting in my notice, and I'll see you at another time. This highway does not know my name, and I don't care. No, I don't care. Heading my way for another place, and I got 3 good tires and a spare. Just a white line gypsy getting out of Mississippi with just enough gas to get there.
Low budget live, the Froggy version of it right now. Actually live, as Kyle Nettles just said, he finally caught a live. Well, lucky you, I say, and lucky for me that y'all are here. I appreciate each and every one of you tuning in, man. Been a hell of a last couple days. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if folks saw my video out there that I made from the ABT, but I caught me a solid dose of the old strep throat, and man, woke up just absolutely dog sick Saturday morning for Weiss Lake. Went out, did the on the water coverage. We had terrible weather. Thank God for Gil, and to say the very least. And it was rough getting through it. And my voice completely was gone by the end of it. Miss Kay sent me home, and I basically stayed in the bed. I got home about 3:00 Saturday afternoon, had about a 3-hour drive, and then rolled on to the bed when I got home. And man, spent most of Saturday evening, Saturday night, and most of Sunday in it. Went to the doctor, got some meds, and my voice just came back today barely. So appreciate y'all tuning in. You got Noah Dickinson. You'll do anything to get out of standing in the rain like the rest of us. Shout out to the best photographer in the game right there, Noah Dickinson. We did take a solid butt kicking as an ABT crew over there. It was March weather in May, but thank y'all for tuning in. That's enough about me griping. Somebody said, I saw in the comments, thanks for finally having my boy on. Yeah, we'll be having Jake Lawrence join us here shortly. I've not talked to Jake a lot in life, so I'm really looking forward to this, man. I've been impressed with him for years, and really looking forward to, it was Kip Stanley there. Yeah, Kip, we're going to have your boy on. Somebody also says, is the cerebral tackle the guest tonight? If that ever happens, understand that shit has gone horribly awry in my life. That guy is a goon, and that's all there is to be said about that. Just a troubling soul, to say the least. But he's like Beetlejuice. If you say his name 3 times, I'm sure he'll come rolling in. That's for sure. What's up, Travis Montgomery? All right. When are you going to have us some more worldwide Watson? We had Watson at the Classic. We'll have Watson at the Classic. So, maybe here again soon. I'm going to see Watson next week at the NPFL. Real quick, Jinko, the presenting sponsor of the show, LBL25 is going to save you money. LBL25, jinkofishing.com. Gil, like I said earlier, thank God for Gil this past weekend, the Apex suit, LBL20. They're giving you 20% off for being a low lifer. Absolute smash of a deal on some of the best outdoor gear in the game. Duncan 10 at baitworks.com, bait-wrx.com, Duncan-10. Pro Guy batteries, best lithium in the world, in my opinion. Best AGMs, they got you covered. They got their chargers as well. LBL 10, just for being a low life, for 10% off. All right. Goodness gracious. Going to get those in. And also thanks to the folks at Express Boats, because they have my back more than anybody in the industry. And I am proud to run the X21 Pro. All right. Jake's going to join us here in just a few minutes. I actually filmed an LBL light last week on Thursday, and it was just kind of more rambling than usual for me. So I didn't end up posting it. And basically the gist of it was, and it's kind of what I want to talk about before Jake comes on is, and I did have a sound effect queued up, and I forgot it now. But sometimes you got to eat a little crow. And I've been very, very critical of MLF since they bought FLW, since the BPT's inception, and for good reason, for a lot of different things. But in 2025, I never thought I would see a time where if there is still a war between them and Bass, that they're winning it, in my opinion. And I'll gladly say that I feel like that's the case, man. I think they made the right move on forward-facing sonar. Their format sets up for it. I think their schedule's been killer, and they have been very fortunate with some amazing endings. That Jake Lawrence finish against Wheeler a couple weeks ago, you don't get that in any other format. It was very, very cool. They had a crazy finish at Redcrest with Dustin Connell and Wesley Strader. But I think as far as just overall 2025, they are smashing it. And that probably feels weird coming out of my mouth. I've never had an issue with the format at all, the every fish counts thing. But they're absolutely smashing it this year. They got heavy hitters this week, which is a very cool, unique event coming up at Smith Mountain Lake. And man, I just never thought we would live in a time where Bassmaster is this OG organization that they are. They started it all. Ray Scott started it all. And the negativity that surrounds that organization right now, from a fan standpoint, is just, honestly, it's kind of sad to see. And some of it warranted, some of it not. And it's just, it's rough, man. It's rough. I don't, and it's like I've said earlier this year, you keep trying to pull out gimmicks on live, keep trying to find this new thing that works. And a lot of it's just not working for the fans. And I understand why you do that. I understand you got to take a risk, but that certainly hurts them. And then I think they didn't do anything about forward facing. And y'all know I'm pro forward facing sonar. I love it. Use it all the time. Been a Garmin guy for a long time, since its inception. It does dominate. That's easy to say. It does. When it plays, it plays. And they put a Band-Aid on a bullet hole with it for whatever reasons. And they just, there you go. That's a great comment from Ben right there. Bass just completely missed on the forward-facing sonar deal. They did. They had an opportunity to do something when everybody else was doing something. MPFL went the far extreme by banning it. I've said I would like to have seen a hybridized deal, but it's working for us. And it's fun. It's fun to watch. We'll see when we go to Douglas this week, and it's a deep water deal, potentially, suspended fish deal. We'll see. They're still going to catch them because those dudes always catch them. But this is the time of year, the next couple, that will be interesting. They smashed at Santee. They smashed at Norman without it, but it will be interesting. Douglas is kind of historically a tough lake. We've had a lot of rain, a lot of crazy water levels potentially over there. So that'll be interesting. But I think with what MLF did with the Tackle Warehouse, with BPT, it's great. I think it's absolutely great. So Bass had an opportunity to do something and they didn't. And man, it just seems like it brought out the damn buzzards more than ever. And they are just taking a solid beating. So strange to see, very strange to see, because they have been on top for so long. And it's just, it's very interesting. Okay. I'm going to address this one. Scott Ezel, Slick Johnson. That's what Keith Boucher calls him, Slick Johnson. So I was called by an elite angler today, and I heard this. I don't know why they would cancel Sabine. It's been flooded. I think it's coming down from what I've heard. I don't think they've had any more rain necessarily. But I was called by an elite guy today that fishes MPFL, and he told me this. The reschedule date that they told him, if they cancel, which is the second day of practice, if they cancel, after letting them practice 2 days, would be on top of the final MPFL of the season. You're going to start to see more of these kind of things, I think. MPFL is certainly a competitor now. They were kind of looked at as like that cute, look, they're over there just trying. And then this year, I think, man, fortunately for us, like, we do have a lot of fan attention. We do have attention from the industry for the first time. We have a lot of, the household names fishing with us, and we're very fortunate for that. But I think that it's you're going to start seeing, we tend to schedule around the Elite Series schedule to kind of cater to those guys and to not be on top of their broadcast. That's another big thing, in the business scheme is I never think it's smart for BPT, Bass, MPF to all be on top of each other. You're dividing the fans. It's like having Redcrest right after the Classic. You're not doing yourself any favors, right? So you got to keep that in mind. But yeah, I heard that today. It's disappointing because, you know, we got Greg Hackney leading Angler of the Year right now. And what if you're going to that final event, say they do cancel, Greg has to make a decision whether to go to an elite event on the Sabine River or try to win Angler of the Year in the MPFL. I don't know, man. It sucks to hear it. I hope they don't cancel it. I don't really know why you would let guys practice for 2 days and then cancel, unless there's some crazy flood coming I don't know about, which is potential because I don't know what the weather is in Orange, Texas. But yeah, did hear that today. I haven't seen Slick's video on that yet. By the way, Slick's videos that he makes where he says he's going to tow people's boats, the comments on those are 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10, dude. Those make me laugh as hard as anything on the internet because people are like, you ain't taking my damn boat. I don't know. I think they're hilarious. I had a video this week that went completely viral. Insane. Darian and I were out on Gunnersville and saw a log. Spoiler alert. It was a log that was shaped like it looked like a shark's fin. And at first glance, it's like, holy crap, out in the mouth of Browns Creek. And we filmed it perfect. We're just kind of joking. I posted a 10-second video, 2.7 million views later on Facebook. You get to see people take everything at face value, and dude, they're arguing in the comments. Is it a shark? Is it not? It has been, I've worked my whole, adult life, at least the last 10, 12 years, call it making content, doing things. And it's amazing what will actually finally go viral. All you need is a log that looks like a shark, but cracks me up, man. And there's all kind of, y'all are killing me in the comments. Thoughts on Matt and Slick's videos. I'll be honest, Fred, I have not got to watch Slick's podcast with Matt Herron yet. Matt actually called me to do a show, and scheduling didn't work out on that. And I know he's done a couple now, but I know he did Mike Iconelli's, but no, I have not. I talked to Matt a little bit at Lake Norman MPFL, but I don't know. Haven't checked it out yet. I've heard it was interesting, to say the least. I like Matt. I'm a Matt Herron fan. So need to get Justin Martin on. Amen. We'll get old Martin on again here soon. Scott Clark. I saw that, and it indeed did look like a shark, but I knew better, being that it was Luke's post. Well, I just think just the way Darian and I were acting, if you thought that was a shark, then shame on you. Listen, I've had grown men and women from around Lake Gunnersville in my DM saying, I live at Lake Gunnersville. Where was this at? I'm like, hide your kids. Don't take them tubing. They're going to be in trouble. They're going to get ate like a Sakamata shad. Don't do it. Don't do it. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. We've got things to talk about with this dude. He has been absolutely on a tear lately on the national scene, but I've been knowing of this dude for a long time on the Tennessee River. He has been making a lot of noise on Kentucky Lake and Pickwick, and now y'all are starting to see what everybody around here has been knowing, that you better watch out for the one and only Jake Lawrence. What's up?
What's going on?
How are you, man?
Man, I'm doing awesome. We've finally gotten a little rest here the last couple of days, so I'm feeling a whole lot better.
I was about to say, and then you got to do a podcast with some redneck from Southern Middle Tennessee on top of that, buddy. Well, welcome to LBL. I absolutely appreciate you doing it. Sorry we had to reschedule for tonight instead of last night, as we had planned, but I have a little bit more of a voice today. It would have been a lot of you talking and me whispering, trying to ask you questions.
It's quite all right. Again, with me being gone for a couple of weeks, I have plenty of honeydews to take care of here around the house in what little time I've got here. And so we made the best of the time there.
So you've had 2 back-to-backs. You go BPT, big win. You dang almost win on Pickwick again, a place where you've gotten a lot of hardware and a lot of money. And now I saw a post, you're headed to the All-American, BFL All-American next?
That is correct. Yeah, I'm really excited about that event. That's, I don't want to say that I'm not going to fish a lot of BFLs anymore, but with my time constraints, my scheduling, this might be kind of my one shot at an All-American victory, and it's something that I would love to kind of hang my hat on and have that there. It's, you know, a lot of the big guys that we've all grown up to know, they all have that win kind of under their belt, and it's something that I would hold in high regard.
Man, I think it is, and I've said this on the show over the years, I think it's one of those trophies, one of those titles that's up there with the Classic, now with Red Crest, with the old Forest Wood Cup trophies. Like, it's one of those that you don't even have to say BFL All-American, just say All-American. Like,
everybody knows what that is.
And you're right, from Clun to Shaw Grigsby, Skeet, so many guys, Joe Thomas. I think about so many legends of the sport that got their start there. And I find it fascinating. Is this your first one?
It is. It is.
That blows my mind. I figured you had been to at least one or two.
No, so, you know, give everyone, you know, all the listeners a little background about myself. You know, I have always fished since I was a wee little one. And actually, I was so little, I used to call the Bassmaster Classic the Bassmaster Plastic. That's how long we've had this dream. And we've been trying to get to where we are. So really kind of a cool thing. But, you know, getting out of college there, we had a young one while I was in college, and I really just didn't feel like, both from a business perspective as well as from the fishing side, that I was really where I needed to be competitive out there. And so I sold insurance for several years, kind of guided all through college, and you know, my buddy Ben Parker, you know, kind of mentored under him and kind of took some of his overbookings, various things, kind of part-time guiding. And honestly, after 4 or 5 years of selling insurance and doing as many guide trips on the weekends and on my vacation, I thought, man, this is crazy. Let's go do this. And did that, you know, full time for, gosh, probably 6 or 7 years. And really, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of my old clients are gonna be listening to this, and I guess we can all kind of laugh about it now, but I got it a little bit differently than kind of the traditional, you know, 8 to 5 out of this marina. I really wanted to, I got bored with that pretty quick. And so what I did is I would book like 3 or 4 days on a particular lake, maybe with the same guy, maybe not. And then I would bounce to another lake. And so a lot of times I would show up to a lake and I hadn't been there in 2 or 3 weeks. And the guy's, of course, breathing over my shoulder and waiting to get that first bite. And I'm still kind of putting the pieces of the puzzle together. But what it did is it trained me or kind of got me in this tournament mode. Again, when I was guiding, I really took a step back from, you know, tournament fishing per se. Fish 1 or 2 small deals a year, but I just didn't feel like it was fair, you know, to my clientele or to myself, you know, to go burn up all my fish all week or to hold them back. You know, either which way, I kind of hurt myself. And so after college, you know, super fortunate again to kind of back up and, you know, was very fortunate to get a scholarship to Bethel and really got the taste for it. Like, you know, you think, you know, what all that travel and all of it, you know, the tournament aspect is all about. But when you do it, you eat, sleep, and breathe it for 4 or 5 years, you really kind of know, okay, this is what I want to do or this isn't. And either way is fine, but I definitely knew at that point, this is no question, this is what we're going to do. We're going to find a way. And so again, it's kind of, it's been a several year process, but I'm super fortunate that it really honed my skills, allowed me to kind of grow, mature a little bit from the business side and understand that side much better. So really, really happy with the decision we made, and we're having fun with it now.
No doubt, man. And that's why I said in the intro there, I've known of you for a long, long time. And I don't know you. I think maybe we've only met in person maybe one time, but
one or two times.
Jake Lawrence on the Tennessee River has been around for so many years. And when you climbed up that ladder to the BPT, I was like, yeah, those boys finna have a handful over there, because we've just seen it, man. And you've always been a guy. I think now you probably get labeled in that forward-facing sonar category, you know. But, dude, let me just tell y'all something. Y'all can get your little buzzard hands out of the comments on that, because this boy's been catching them long before that existed. And we'll catch them a long time after it's gone, if that ever happens in this sport. But I think it is so interesting that you said that about Bethel, and you don't know, the tournament fishing lifestyle is very difficult. It just is. Like, everybody wants a dose of it until they get a dose of it, I think, you know, and you've got to be addicted. You got to be obsessed. But what college fishing is now doing is it gives you a dose of the travel that it takes, the prep that it takes to do well. at that next level. And you kind of get to go, this ain't for me, or this is for me. And
exactly.
Something that's relatively new in the sport.
It is, and we're very quickly seeing the effects from that. It's these guys are coming in red hot, like they are spot on. They're fishing like veterans because we've to some degree been there and done it. I mean, again, maybe not at that particular level, but what we're doing at the PPT or at the elite scale is to some degree very similar to the college and the atmosphere that surrounds it. And again, just that mental and physical grind week after week, you've kind of seen it, you've done it. And so it's a much easier transition once you get there.
Well, I don't think that gets enough credit with the younger guys. The Elite Series this weekend, I think you had 9 dudes under 26 years old in the top 10. Seth Fighter was the old man slinging the jig around, smoking cigs, just crushing, still caught over 100 pounds. But man, you see all the negativity that surrounds it, and forward facing sonar takes a beating on it. But I don't think enough can be said, other than Trey McKinney, who didn't fish college, but he still had a ton of experience from a young age. He was fishing a ton of team tournaments with a gentleman that was a fantastic angler up in Illinois. He was fishing Kentucky Lake a lot back then. But these guys like a Tucker Smith, dude, they have been going hard in the paint for a very, very long time.
Even high school for Tucker.
That's what I'm saying.
And Logan and them. I kind of came in just after the high school. I'm just kind of too old for the high school stuff.
How old are you, Jake? Sorry to
I'll be 30. No, I'll be 34 here 34. In about a week and a half. So okay, kind of in that perfect, honestly, that perfect age group of you had to grow up just fishing and learn that side of it, but still young enough to pick up the electronics and the forward facing and all that kind of comes with that. But again, like I was extremely fortunate. John Garrett and I grew up fishing together, and we had such a strong bass club, Real Foot Lake Bass Club there in Union City. It was such a strong club and we had so many sons of people that were in that club. They formed a junior club, and so even before high school, John and I were battling it out, weekend after weekend. And again, just gaining that knowledge and that experience of, what that is all about, and kind of, enlightening you on both the good and the bad side, because there always is, and with anything that we're going to do. So again, it's unbelievable how many more resources these guys have and girls as well, at such a young age. We're all getting so much better. Even the weekend angler is such a better fisherman than even 15 years ago.
We say it on Alabama Bass Trail. I get fortunate to get to work with that crew, and I guess we do 15 tournaments a year with the ABT 100s included in that. And it is 14 or 15. Dude, and I don't care the weather conditions. I don't care what you throw lake conditions wise. We'll always be like, well, it might take a little less today, doing the commentary thing. No. And then somebody will inevitably say, myself, Darian, or Jason Duran will say, dude, what are you talking about? It's ABT. Like, they absolutely smash every single time. The check weight is absurd. The winning weight's absurd for the conditions. We fished a day on Gunnersville in March, post front this year, canceled on Saturday, fished a tournament on Sunday because the tornadoes and everything else on Saturday. 58 bags over 20. Now, look, I was out there in my Express doing commentary, taking waves over the front, just trying to cover guys. They're just all locked up, just catching them all day long. And, man, you're right, though. Your average guy that only gets to go on the weekends, just your average tournament fisherman, is so much better for so many different reasons now.
Correct. Yeah, it's really unbelievable. It's a lot of fun. I really think this is underutilized or really not talked about. But I would have to say that our retention level with all of the new resources, just like this podcast, I'm guilty. I listen to it way more than what I probably should do, and way more than I admit to my wife. But I'm kind of hiding back here.
Don't let me get you in trouble, dude.
Oh, you do it quite often. Don't worry. And I can assure you, I'm not the only one. But again, all the resources that are available, to both young and experienced anglers. It's just unreal how much better we all are and how much faster you can learn. Our retention level for people that are being introduced to the sport versus, what kind of leaves or fizzles out, it's got to be much smaller now, or excuse me, much higher, our retention rate,
Uh-huh.
with the electronics and the technology. And again, just the general knowledge that you're able to encompass in such a short time.
Just the research alone that you can do going into a body of water you've never been to. You feel like you've been there from watching YouTube videos, doing Google Earth, doing map study. By the time I get somewhere I've never been these days, I'm like, I know where all the ramps are at. I know where this creek looks like. Now you got apps like this new deep dive deal. They're working with us at MPFL. Dude, I can look at water clarity for the last 30 days. Satellite imagery. It's crazy.
It is. And again, that all is attributed to the technology that we have. And we kind of run the forward facing through the mud, but we're all getting so much more efficient because of all sorts of different technologies. There at Conroe, the first stage of the BPT, I utilize the deep dive app. Religiously. And
really?
There was a lot of water coming into Conroe. There's certain creeks that have a lot more water flow and
stream flow
or inflow.
Yeah, inflow. Yeah.
Yep. And also the wind app. That lake is not all that big. It's like 12 or 13,000 acres, but gosh almighty, that place gets rough. And again, with this forward facing and kind of some of that stuff, you're really strategizing. And I can't emphasize that enough about, that BPT format. It is so much more than finding and catching a bass now. That deep dive app was really critical there to kind of figure out what windows, what periods that the wind wasn't going to blow in certain areas. Really, really cool app. It's something that I never realized how much I would utilize it until I kind of understood what was there and the resources. And it's been really neat.
Man, I got on a call with those guys with MPFL because we're going to try to incorporate into live a little bit. And I think maybe you guys do that at BPT, I think. And then I know Bass does it too during the broadcast. And you're normally catching too many fish to watch the broadcast while I'm sitting at home watching it. But we've utilized it the last couple of tournaments. But we got off the first call with him, I just immediately got the app on my phone and was like, dude, this is. In fact, Cat and I were talking about it. He's like, you really think it's that cool? And I said, bro, when you travel around and even at home, I'm like, look at this. You can tell, and it's legit. If it shows that the water's a certain color somewhere, take it to the
right.
It's right.
I still really don't know fully where they're getting all that information, how they're accruing all of that.
I don't know.
Kind of a cool deal, but it is spot on. I mean, within like literally a quarter of a mile, you'll see that watercolor change on the deep dive app, and you get there, and sure enough, there is that mud or clean water, whichever it's going to show. Super cool. Again, like just there on Kentucky Lake, to see the inflows and which creeks have more water that are coming out of the bag. Generally, those are the ones that are going to have the most defined ditches back there. And when we had some high water in practice last week, like I was again utilizing that to kind of see where the deepest Pickwick was interesting last week. It was just high enough to keep the fish from going out, but not high enough to really make it to be a full-fledged, like everybody's up there in the sawgrass and the bushes and cypress. And it was that weird kind of in between. And again, that deep dive app was really cool without making a 10 or 15 mile run to get to an area, all just to be disappointed and kind of go, man, if the water was 6 inches higher, this would be the deal. You can really knock it out in 2-3 minutes looking on that app. So really cool.
If we keep talking about it, there are going to be people saying, ban deep dive. We can't have it. If they didn't have their apps on their phones, they wouldn't catch nothing. I don't want to get them started. Actually, I don't think you'll see many of this. This is not the right kind of podcast for that. We got to go here. Casual Bass Guy says, I can't believe you dunked on Jacob Wheeler like that. And that is a good way to describe it. So Darian, my good friend Darian Craig, I'm actually drinking some y'all sweet tea in his honor tonight because he covered for me at the ABT weigh-in when my voice went out and Miss Kay sent me home. And we were texting and he had turned it off. He was not watching the Nickajack final round there in BPT. My wife and I and my kids were all watching because they had kind of got hooked on it during Redcrest because of Wesley Strader and I going way back, and Wesley was in contention, and we watched the final hour of that like it was a movie, and they were all fired up. And then he came up a little short, and then dude, watching Wheeler, you had this big lead. When you caught the 8-pounder, I was like, that's a wrap. Even early, I'm like, dude, you catch an 8-pounder on a buzzer, on Nickajack, on the final day, it's yours. Here's the keys to the Corvette. Enjoy your first BPT. And then all of a sudden, here he comes late in the deal. And he's like, every time I'm like playing on my phone, looking up. Oh, okay. Let's get a little tighter. And then we get to those last 20 minutes, really tightens up. And man, I have never in competitive bass fishing, and I've been watching a lot of it. Of course, it's different with live covers now. It's different with that format, but I think it was one of the coolest moments without a doubt. But walk us through your last 5 minutes. So when Jacob catches, I believe it was like a 3-7 or whatever to take the lead, and you needed one keeper. Walk us through that last little bit there.
Yeah, I still, like 10 or 12 days later, still cannot find the words to fully correlate or explain the roller coaster of emotions. I mean, it was like, I'm super dialed. I'm super focused on the cast that's in front of me, and the BPT, along with any tournament that we fish now, is so much efficiency rate. So that is so important. Keeping your bait in the strike zone as often as possible, and so I really just kind of focused on that, and didn't really let the 12 or 14 pound lead, kind of get in my head and relax me enough. I knew he was, it's Jacob Wheeler. He's gonna do something special, and so I guess about the 10-minute window, it was still pretty tight, but I still had like several pounds, and I'll never forget like that. The first thought of, you've got an opportunity with 10 minutes left and a couple pound lead, and then I immediately was like, nope, don't relax. Don't let this go. Like, it's just back and forth, like angel and devil on both shoulders, kind of going back and forth. And again, you just, man, if we could bottle up that feeling, that emotion, or again, that roller coaster of what went down the last few minutes, dude, we'd be billionaires. Like you can't find that high anywhere else. And I can't, it was somewhat like, I don't want to say devastating, but it was somewhat like, okay, here's reality. Like here he comes.
Welcome to the big time. Here you go.
Yeah, right.
Take the
right.
Wheeler.
Like, this
Take
is
the Wheeler
exactly
show.
why I didn't let myself get excited and kind of into the win and all that. I think I had like maybe 4 minutes left when he caught that one, and it was just a couple ounces ahead of me, yet I had to catch a 2-pounder. And to kind of back up, I found this open hole in the eelgrass. I actually ran across it the knockout morning, but it was raining and super low clouds, little wind. I couldn't see anything. And so I just fished right through there. I caught a 115, just barely a non-scoreable. Really didn't think a whole lot more, about it. But to start that morning, I kind of ran through my bluegill beds, caught a few, stopped on that place again. I caught a 115. If there's a 115 there, surely there's another scoreable. And as soon as, I'll never forget this, for as long as I live, I stood up on the front deck of my boat, and it was just like the sun was shining perfectly down on this little hole, and I knew I was going to catch him. Like, I didn't know how many, but I knew I was going to get a bite right there. That was the exact pattern, kind of the pattern within the pattern, rather. And my very first cast was that 8-pounder, and I would have never, ever, still one to this day, say this on live or out loud, but as soon as I caught that one, I kind of snickered to myself. I was like, this is my day. Again, yeah. I mean, as a tournament angler, when things are kind of rolling in your direction and the stars are aligning, so to speak. And so I was able to catch way more than what I really even anticipated out of that place. But by call it middle of the third period, I'd pretty well worn my welcome out, and they pretty well knew what that Buckeye buzzer was, and what was odd and interesting, and I still just kind of student of the game and always kind of reanalyzing what I see. I really think that it was so shallow up there that any sort of subsurface lure, I almost think it was my line that had to be bothering them, because you could not make one of those fish bite hardly anything. I caught a couple on a Yamamoto D-shad, a couple on a Cinco, but all of those would be, as soon as my bait hit, he would run over there and eat it. And it's like, he didn't have time to really figure out what was going on. But that buzzer was the deal. And honestly, there's no telling what I could have caught if I'd had my walking bait box in the boat. I did not have one single walking bait in the entire boat. No telling how much tackle I had, but you never. It's the way it always works. You know that, Duncan. It's you could bring $10,000 worth, and it's you catch them on the one thing you've got one of. And
I was going to say, and we normally do have
Yep.
$10,000 worth of crap and too much of everything except for the one thing. I got to Guntersville last week and fish had to take some guys that I work with, flew into town, took them for a couple days over there, and there was one old school crankbait in the grass, one, and there is one left to my name that is no longer made anymore, and they were throttling it. Yep. And I'm like, we're sharing the ride. I'm like, here you go. Like I have my kids, like I'm hooking them, like y'all reeling in, because like one of these guys doesn't fish for bass a lot. They're from up north, walleye guys, great fishermen, but just don't fish for bass. And I got him back here on my square bills. He's slapping eelgrass off of them as hard as he can. I was like, hey, listen, if I let you throw this one, we ain't slapping it. You got to gently take the grass off because we ain't getting another one of these. All right. I know one fella that's got a bunch of them that might spare one if we lose this one. But yeah, I know the feeling. I'm like, out of all the daggum tackle in this boat, this has got to be what they're on today. And I just happened to randomly tie it on, and it was 10-1.
Yeah.
It's always that way for sure.
It always is. So anyway, I'd kind of worn my welcome out in that area. I knew that I had, and I knew let's back up, maybe 10 or 15 minutes left that was the case. And we've got to do something here. At this point, I don't have time to run anywhere that I feel confident that I'm at least going to put myself around one. So what I did is kind of backed out away from that area and just fished the eelgrass that was around that little hole. And I caught a couple to, again, we were neck and neck going back and forth there for the last 15 or 20 minutes. And to get down to the last 6 or so, I just, again, I'm such a high percentage angler. Like I'm more of that Van Damme style. Like I'm going to run through here 100 miles an hour. I'm going to hit the most obvious high percentage deal, and I'm going to run to the next area. And I'm not much of a dragger, and I like to know where I'm going to get a bite and repeat that as many times as possible. And so I'm always looking and analyzing, trying to find that next high percentage place. And I decided that I'd pull the old TVA move and shift around and pull like a 180 and throw at the same hole from a different angle. And a lot of times, as you know, schools or an area that you've put a lot of pressure on, I don't know why, I don't understand what it is. I've even done it with a drop shot, which makes no difference whatsoever. But you can turn around and cast from, in this case, it would have been up shallow, throwing out deep, and usually trigger a couple more. So I got the boat positioned over there, and I just wasn't feeling it. I made 2 or 3 casts up there. Again, we're down by a couple ounces, got to have a scoreable. And it got down to 1 minute, and it felt like 30 seconds of that minute. I still have not had a chance to go back and watch kind of the last few minutes of it to see. But I vividly remember stopping when I knew this was my last cast. I knew this is the do or die moment. And I just kind of analyzed and looked around, and I'm like, where do I want this last one to go? Do I throw it back in the same hole that I've been throwing for the last 30 minutes and not catching one? Or do we just wing it out here in the vast eelgrass? And that's ultimately what I decided to do. I said, the heck with it. The odds of throwing out there and coming across a bass in a vast eelgrass, like a carpet of eelgrass, is not good. But if I do, I know he has not seen or heard that berserk buzzbait come over him 100 times like these have over here. So I made that cast, and 28, 30 seconds or so left. That thing mowed, flushed it. And honestly, like, it was so shallow. The cool thing about that, and again, I hope that my camera guy I know just by kind of peeking back there, he would be watching my buzzer a bunch.
Yeah, he was a good bit. Yeah, I can't remember that last one because they had you split screen.
Yeah.
Split screen with Jacob, so I can't remember if it showed the blow up. I just remember sitting on the couch and watching. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's freaking hooked up. Because I was like, dang, Jacob's fixing win number 9. He got him right there at the end. Holy crap! And then all of a sudden, it's like,
yeah, man. What was cool, and we've seen this. I know you have as well on Pickwick. It happens a lot up here on Kentucky Lake. When we have our fall, drawdown, the lake gets really, really shallow on these main river bars. Mm-hmm. We'll throw a topwater up there, and A lot of times the water will only be like 10 or 12 inches deep, and these fish they don't have enough room to get under the top water and come up on it. So they'll actually like shamu it. They'll come from the side and come up and come down on it.
Sure.
It's a really fun bite. Can be frustrating because the hookup ratio is usually not great. They're coming down on the top of the top water, and it's somewhat frustrating. But in this case, they would come down on my buzzbait, that big hook sticking up. I only lost or really missed one blow up the entire day. Again, just my day and nothing you could do wrong. But these fish were coming up, including the 8-pounder. They would come up and actually come down on the bait before they would ever even touch it. And so that 5-pounder did that, but it actually came from behind it and did the little shamu deal. And it knocked a bunch of slack in my line. I thought, oh man, 30. I was really just winding my bait up. I was going to chunk a D-shad in there and hope and pray that she bit it as soon as it hit the water and I could just jerk her in. And it just so happened I sped up and started winding, and it all came tight. And I'll be honest with you, I completely blacked out. Like, until I boat flipped that fish, I almost don't even remember any of that. It was such a crazy moment of, again, like I still had one cast left. So I was not giving up in the least bit, but I was already starting to like try to wrap my head around like my conclusion to the day I'm live there, and kind of keep myself composed enough to kind of keep my wits about me, so to speak. And then it blows up. And so it's just like this roller coaster of back and forth, the most extreme emotions I've ever felt, all wrapped into like a 10-minute window. It was something it's unexplainable and something I still can't believe it happened. Like, it's just one of those. I laid in bed the night before, and this is one of the coolest, every tournament series that we have has somewhat different rules, some different formats, and they're all fun in their own way. But the BPT format, in my opinion, is one of the most thrilling because the winner almost never knows that he's going to win the night before the event. Again,
True.
For anybody that doesn't know and doesn't follow BPT, the weight's 0 after the 2 qualifying days and after the knockout round. So you go into your championship round, you could have been 100 pounds up on everybody the entire week, and none of it matters. That's all history, and you've essentially just burned those fish up. And so going to bed that night, you always lay in bed and I had this kind of weird ritual of envisioning kind of what I want to happen the next day, and visualizing almost kind of a Clun-esque type visualization of how I want this to go. And I usually get pretty crazy with what I'm dreaming up and visualizing, and that kind of builds confidence in myself. But you just simply can't even fantasize something like that happening on the very last cast. Like
the 8-pounder and the last cast. Yeah, your 8-pounder and the last cast on a buzzer, of all things, greatest bait to catch a bass on maybe ever. And for that to happen, my favorite thing that happened in my household, Jake, was Marissa Duncan, the triple threat, as she's known here at Low Budget Live. When you hooked it and you go to swing it in, she said, "Oh, don't break the line." And I'm like, "What?" And by this time you've already got it in your hand. And she's like, "Oh, I was so scared he was going to break his line and he was going to lose." And I'm like, "Well, I guess that was." And at the time, I was a little like you in that I was kind of black, and I was like, "Did that really just happen?" And then that I didn't even pay attention to how dang big it was. And it turns out it was a 5'9", way more than what you needed.
Absolutely. And that's by far the fastest I have ever reeled in a 5.5 pounder.
%.
I just pointed my rod tip at it and just cranked for all it had. And I do, now that we're kind of talking about it, like I do remember having that thought of like, do you play this one? Because I am kind of they joke around, call me peepaw. Like, I don't set the hook real hard. I don't get in a hurry. Like, there are all reasons behind that we can get into, but I have kind of my method and it works for me. And but this one, like, I just knew it's too big. You can't give her an opportunity to turn her head. That's going to cost me like 4 to 7 seconds. And, you try to get down and lip her if she takes off. Like, it's just all of that is racing through my mind in a matter of like a second or two. And I just said, you know what? It's either going to happen or it's not. I pointed that rod tip at it and just wound. And when we got her there, again, I had kind of so much momentum. It was a pretty easy boat flip for that big of a fish. But amazingly enough, I never even let her touch the carpet. Like that had to be
Oh, I know.
all adrenaline, and I'm still a little cut up, but we're all good. We're safe.
Now, are you a braid guy on your buzzer or fluorocarbon?
Yeah, I'm a braid. I like 30-pound
Okay.
braid. I've thrown that cigar smack down, and braid to me is rope is rope. Like I don't know what everybody's all about this 65 and 80-pound braid.
Yeah,
I can cast the 30 pounds so far, and honestly, I'd go down to 15 or 20 if you could get away. The diameter gets so small at 20, it likes to eat into your spool. Like when you set the hook, it kind of gets a little rocky there. But 30 is perfect, and man, that was a big key for me, both on that particular little bluegill bed and a couple others that I was utilizing. Nickajack's really clean, and those fish were ultra shallow. I mean, really, really shallow. And so you had to stay way back from these fish. The vast majority of them, like I want to say that last fish was the closest one by far that I caught to the boat. Again, just you can't make that stuff up, But again, it was really, really important to keep that buzzbait or the Cinco, whatever it was that I was throwing, extremely far away from the boat. It reminded me a lot of bone fishing, like down there in the Keys. Like you once you saw that fish and like you could really see him good, it was way too late. You had to, but you almost didn't even need to waste time to throw at it because he long since knew you were around. And the ones that you could just barely see cruising around or even not see at all, those were the ones that were aggressive and would bite.
Well, Noah Dickinson in the comments saying, hearing Braid sing after schwacking one on a buzz is a mixture between Fergie and Jesus. Shout out to the movie.
Shout out to that one. That's
Step Brothers for that, Noah. I wonder that. I know you can cast further for sure on 30-pound braid. Those dang swindles, Trey and Gerald have got me on this fluorocarbon buzzbait kick, and I like it. I do like it. I don't feel like I pull it from as many.
Yeah,
at times, but I'm kind of in between. I'm like, because I love 30-pound braid. That's what I throw my spooks and everything on. Yeah. I'll throw a frog on 30-pound braid a ton too.
I do too.
If I'm mat fishing like Gunnersville, I'll bump it up some, but 30 will get you by in a lot of situations.
It will. And so what kind of my setup, and I've thrown the fluorocarbon, I've even thrown mono on it. And what I have kind of decided on what kind of works best for me is a much lighter rod than what most people use. If you're going to throw braid, I encourage you to go much lighter. Like 1 or 2 actions lighter. I'm throwing the Dobbins Cadence Series 713. It's a great all-purpose rod, but it's it's a 3-power, so it's a kind of a heavy medium or a really light medium heavy. But it's got a really good tip on it. Like I also throw my big like Magnum Nico rigs on that, and so it's kind of it's a rod that you can do a lot of different stuff with, but it's really parabolic and it'll absorb a lot of that. And another thing, I don't as much now, but I used to, like when I started throwing braid on my buzzbait, I would purposely never look at my buzzbait. I would always kind of be looking off somewhere. Yep. And again, just kind of help because that braid's got zero stretch. People say fluorocarbon doesn't have any stretch. You throw a buzzbait versus braid, it's got stretch. You feel the difference there.
Definitely.
And, so again, throwing braid, I'd go 1 or 2 actions lighter on the rod versus a fluorocarbon or mono. I'd kind of beef up the rod a little bit.
Okay. All right. When you got back to the ramp there in Chattanooga, You've had the the all-time winningest BPT guy, one of the, as somebody said, the modern day GOAT. Will go down in history of the sport. Obviously, is just the dude. He's a problem, and he's got his family out there following him. He's got to sleep in his own bed. He's a Tennessee transplant. That Jacob Wheeler. What was the first thing he said to you when you guys got to lay eyes on each other in Chattanooga?
Yeah, so let's back up a little bit before that because there were a couple cool moments that I'd love to tell the listeners. It was so I in the third period again I would rotate through this little bluegill bed really all day, but in the third period I had a father and son pull up on the end of this thing and pole down and start bluegill fishing. I'm talking like right on the edge of the hole, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, like how can we work around this? And you know, again, they have just as much right to be there, probably more so. They're locals and have probably been fishing that place for a long time. But he had you know, probably about 9 or 10 years old, about as the same age as my youngest, and so I just pulled up real nice and you know, talked to him for a couple seconds and said, hey, if y'all don't mind, and if you do, just let me know. But I'm just going to ease around and fish from the other side of this hole. But I want to let you know, like, if it's okay again, I may be throwing at your boat like a little bit. And I'm not going to land right next to it, but like, I didn't want to say it, but you're sitting on the best little part of this hole. So I kind of need to be able to maneuver around. They were super awesome, very friendly. You know, the young guy there was really excited, jacked up. Of course, we had camera guy, we had the drone flying around, like it was all kind of stuff going on. And so it was really cool. Every time you would leave that place, you know, give it 30 minutes or so, they would all kind of regroup. And your first couple casts up there, you were going to get bit. There was no doubt. And so I started, and it was kind of that old, you know, old school fishing, you know, out on the grass flat. Like I'd start at noon, and then I'd go to, you know, 11 o'clock and then 10. And I would just kind of work my way around this hole. And I got right to where I was throwing about 10 feet short of their corks. So they were maybe like 20 or 30 feet on the other side of it. And I'll never forget, it was the coolest deal. I hope, again, that he got this on live and was actually looking at my buzzbait. But at the same time, the young man's bobber went down, a bass blew up on my buzzbait. And we're both hooked up and kind of fighting in opposite directions there. It was just one of those cool moments. And I think once they understood kind of the severity of the moment and kind of the importance of all this, they so awesome of them. They backed out. I did not ask them to, but it was just something that they wanted to do. And his son got to sit there and kind of watch the whole show go down. And you know, it's really cool, special moment after the win. And I kind of got my bearings about me. Went over there, gave him a great big old hug and a fist bump. And man, I honestly, we had, you know, a 30 or 40 minute, probably a 30-minute boat ride to get back, you know, up to Chattanooga, up to the watch party. And I literally had to stop 2 times. I was dry heaving. I was so excited and just, like emotions. And
that's awesome.
The camera guys handed me a bottle of water. And I mean, for the listeners that don't know me, you know, as well as some of the others, like everybody says they have you know, slept and breathed this their entire life. Like this is all I have ever worked myself to get to. Like this is the epitome of what I am. And so for that moment to kind of soak in, and like I just almost couldn't take it all. And it was, again, super thankful I had that 30-mile run and took about 30 minutes to like compose myself and really kind of get over that. And I wanted to be the best of me once I got there kind of in front of everybody. And so it was a really special moment rounding the corner there and seeing several hundred people all lined up on that seawall. And, you know, again, Jacob was right there kind of cheering me on. He was a super, super great sport, great competitor. But honestly, him and I have had a pretty good relationship and gotten closer and closer with each event. And, you know, I really wasn't sure. Obviously, I know how bad he wanted this and wasn't sure how well he was going to take it. But super awesome, man. Came up, gave me a great big hug, congratulated me, and gave me a little piece of advice kind of moving forward. And, you know, it was a special, the whole thing was special. But that was cool. I really appreciate him doing that. And that meant a ton to me. Just, again, kind of, man, we are fierce competitors as soon as that time clock goes off and it slides in. But afterwards, we're all there to kind of help each other and keep us all going. So really, really cool moment there.
No doubt about it. Just real quick for the folks, I know you said in case they don't know you, they should know you. If they don't know you by now, by George, they better start paying attention. But Jake has, and I guess this last one is added to this, I'm sure MLF updates, but he has 9 career wins. He's just shy of $700,000 in earnings with Major League Fishing alone, 20 top 10s, so many more great finishes. So he's been at this a minute, and now he's technically considered a pro for the first time, I guess, now that he's on the Bass Pro Tour. Tackle Warehouse counts in that as well, in my opinion. So do the Toyotas. But been around a minute. This is not his first rodeo, and you're going to hear a lot more about Jake Lawrence moving forward. Speaking of that, like looking at the rest of the schedule, coming to a lake that you okay?
Just a little bit.
Little bit. I mean, are you kind of choking up on the bat for that one, bud? How's that? Because you guys have some, from the way I understand it, I guess Justin Lucas said on the show, you guys have some off limits, right?
We do, yeah. So this is going to be a fun tournament. Last year we had an invitational here, Tackle Warehouse Invitational, and it was actually my worst event of the entire season. It was most definitely the reason that I didn't win AOY. Huge shout out to Alec Morrison. Absolutely unbelievable season. There were like 3 or 4 of us there that had to be like a 5th, 6th, 7th place average throughout the entire season, which is just unbelievable. And we're seeing that in all of the tournament trails. Like the top echelon of the AOY it's unbelievable. Like you look like,
oh yeah.
Nobody quote me on these numbers because I've long since forgotten, but it was something like 6th place AOY last year would have won AOY any other year.
Yes.
And it's really just shaping. I read an article yesterday or day before, shaping up to be the same thing on the BPT. I know, y'all are about midway through your season. Like it just seems like that top 10% they just don't miss anymore.
No.
And but that event really, I'll be honest with you, going back to the Tackle Warehouse Invitational here on Kentucky Lake last year, really kind of got to me mentally. I don't know. I think I built myself up a little too much, like hyped myself up a little too much in that event. Had way too many people telling me that I was a guaranteed winner, and that just kind of like I hate to even say that, but man, I wish I knew how many guys just. So I don't even know why I'm fishing this. You're in here. It's
They had your name on
the trophy. Like it was just kind of one of those deals. And man, you get told that once or twice, that's one thing. But you get told it a couple hundred times, and it starts to kind of wear on you. And all the eyes are on you, and everybody's watching. And I built myself. I kind of dug myself into a hole, like mentally, before the practice ever even started. Like it was just a kind of a weird place for me to be in. It's not something that I've ever done before. And honestly, I took a tremendous amount from that event. I still had a mediocre finish for me, I guess, like a 25th or 6th. It wasn't a complete bomb, but I felt like I had so much tension built up mentally inside of me. Like I just couldn't generate anything to happen. And if I did, it didn't go my way. And so I'm really looking forward to this event and kind of getting another shot at it. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be an interesting tournament with the format and our minimum weight limit is only 1.8 pounds for this tournament. So that really opens up a bunch of stuff that could go down this week.
Yeah. Boys going to be run some scores up on that one.
Yeah, it should be a really high weight tournament for the kind of the top 20 or so percent. And there again, like the smallmouth here on Kentucky Lake, who knows what's going to play with that? It's so funny growing up. Like I always heard all these guys. Still, it's weird for me to call myself a pro, but anyway, I took down Wheeler 2 weeks ago. I guess we're there, but
yeah, you better start. But you need to start. We're calling you that, bud. We're calling you that.
I appreciate it, but looking up to all these pros, growing up, and they always talked about their home lake. Like, man, I'm on the road all the time. I don't ever get to fish here anymore. And I thought, you're crazy. Like, I could never imagine not fishing Kentucky Lake, and at least a couple times a week. Honestly, I fished out there 2 times this entire year. And now again, this tournament, it's plays into history and kind of what fish do that time of year. But ultimately, things have changed a lot here on Kentucky Lake over the last couple of years. So, and I have honestly fished here less than I have. I had a couple of Toyota wins, a couple other, pretty good sized wins, but like I don't fish here that much anymore. And so I'm looking forward to kind of getting redemption and making this tournament count. Last year it really hurt me. That was a tough one, tough pill to swallow. And honestly, I knew I'll never forget calling my dad after that event and saying, man, if I don't win AOY, like this is the one that it's going to be. And sure enough, that's, kind of the way it all worked out. And so again, just really looking forward to that event, but I'm going to go into it with a much better attitude and we're just going to have fun and we're going to do what I know, or feel like we need to do in that event and just kind of see where it puts us. We're going to catch every one of them that bites and run that score tracker up as far as we can.
Well, and talk about Kentucky Lake a little bit. I mean, it is in a resurgence. not really the resurgence I guess we all expected, where it's just a brown fish, it's a smallmouth dominated fishery right now. And I remember, because I'm old as dirt at this point, 41 years old, but as a kid, Kentucky Lake was a premier smallmouth fishery. All the old time guys, my dad and so many others, they would talk about these 6, 7, even 8-pound smallmouth back in the 80s, in particular, early 90s. The Billy Schraders, the Kentucky Lake Gurus, these monster smallmouth all the time. And then you had the kind of late 90s, early 2000s, you got grass in different parts of the lake, and all of a sudden it's this largemouth explosion. And now we're kind of back to these monster smallmouth again.
We are.
Coming back too?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Are the largemouth coming back?
They are, to some degree. The really interesting thing about Kentucky Lake, and I guess you don't see it as much on Pickwick, but maybe, to some small degree, but certainly on Kentucky Lake, it's this constant ebb and flow of the largemouth and smallmouth population. It seems like we can never get both of them at kind of their peak at the same time, but when one seems to have some sort of environmental issue or a decline in the population, the opposite goes haywire and just blows up. And that's what we've seen here, in the last, call it 5 years. The smallmouth population has really taken over, and there's nothing quite like, I love a Great Lake smallmouth and Champlain, a lot of those northern smallmouth. It's a whole different breed than these TVA ones, but boy, these are mean, and they will bite big baits, and that's really cool to me. Like, it's cool to catch a smallmouth on something, this long, whether it's a big spoon or a big glide or, even a great big minnow. Like, it's just, I love the Great Lakes, the little bitty finessey stuff and the little hair jigs and super light line. But there's nothing like boat flipping a 5-pounder. Like, that's just, that's super cool.
It's a good time.
These TVA smallmouth they're just built different and they act different. And so again, it's been, it's been fun kind of learning that side back when, I guess it was probably 95 to about 02 when the smallmouth were, the last time that they were really prevalent. And again, I was really fortunate. My uncle and my father and grandfather were very dialed on the offshore fishing back in those days when we were lining things up like the Schraders. And, we didn't fish a lot of tournaments back then, or they didn't. And I was certainly too young at that point, but we caught some monster bags of smallmouth and just kind of kept it hush hush. And I've seen a 9-pound smallmouth out of Kentucky Lake, and really, really special. But when that went away and the largemouth, overshadowed it, that was kind of the same window where mapping came out, the side imaging and kind of all the technological advancements since then. It's made it so much easier to find these fish and to catch them. Like, there's no telling in the late 90s how many smallmouth truly were in this lake for like what we were catching based on how we could fish for them and where we were fishing for them, and knowing what I know now and where these smallmouth really like to live. Like, I would do anything if I had one genie in a bottle, so to speak, one gift. I would go back to the late 90s with my uncle and father with my boat and my my setup and see what we could catch in a day. It would be unreal. But with that being said, like, our largemouth population, to go back, like, it is coming. We've got a lot of 15-inchers in the lake. They don't weigh a tremendous amount, but it's really interesting. They're not acting like, call it like pre-2015 largemouth. They don't like to school up as much. They don't stay schooled up. They're very solitary, and it's just it's an interesting, like, what gets my rocks off is learning, like, the educational side of bass fishing. Really, on one end, it's kind of part of the process, but it's ultimately what I learned from that bite is what I take away from it and what I get most excited about. And so it's been a lot of fun to kind of relearn Kentucky Lake to some degree and their new habits. But I do expect a lot of largemouth to be caught in this event, whether it's Barkley or Kentucky. But to kind of going back to what you were saying, it's really interesting. They are cutting us off at the 79 bridge. So that's the Paris Landing Bridge which is where I go out of all the time. I don't
I'll
fish the
say
north end
That's
a
home.
tremendous amount. Like there's too many fish between here and there that you got to run by. So again, I know the north end of the lake, fairly decent, but boy, it really threw a curveball in my plan. They just notified us of that like just a month or two ago, and like all winter long, I'm chomping at the bit. Like I know strategically exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to burn all those fish up north and save all these down here and really go to work on them on championship day. But it'll be a fun event. I think it'll be a really diverse one where you see a lot of different patterns and techniques at play. And that's always an exciting event for the viewers. Like I feel like we're able to learn a lot more from that. It's a little more interesting because let's face it, like watching bass fishing live is not always the most entertaining thing. We try to make it what we can, and you certainly do a great job in keeping everybody laughing and doing what you can. But it's there's so much negativity around forward facing and kind of all that. Everybody's staring at their screen, and it's like, well, if we're not looking at that, we're generally catching fewer, and we're still casting with our back to the camera for hours at a time trying to get a bite. So it's like it's ultimately we're doing the best we can with it. But I do like events and like watching events that are diverse in the patterns and techniques.
Yeah, for sure.
There will be no shortage of that here on Kentucky Lake.
That's really my only complaint with live coverage and forward facing. And I've said this before, is when it is a forward facing dominated event, there's just not enough diversity.
Everybody's doing.
Yeah, it's just not enough diversity anymore. And I think that's where your complaints come from. And the fact that we don't just have an hour edited show now and we stare at it for 5 hours, and fishing is lots of boredom mixed with 30-second burst of excitement. I mean, think about that. You got a 5.9 in probably 15 seconds, right? That's a really big bass for most people most of the time. That's a great fish. And you got it in that quick. It really, deer hunting's the same way, turkey hunting's the same way. You got hours and hours and hours of work for these just small little windows of excitement. And that once we started putting cameras over the shoulders for the bulk of the day, and people, the fans, myself included, feel like, well, hell, I want to watch as much of it as I can. But man, it does get long. And as someone that gets paid to watch a lot of bass fishing, I can tell you, between Alabama Bass Trail on the water in my boat, between MPFL, there's nothing more boring than watching hours of bass fishing. I don't get bored when I fish for hours, even if I'm not catching them. I don't get bored. Right. Man, it is way different not having a rod and watching people fish. It can be like watching paint dry a little bit.
I mean, it can be. Yep. But again, you do, I can't say enough. You do an awesome job. I'm always entertained. Like please, I hope no one that's listening takes this the wrong way, but I listen to live driving down the road way more than I listen to the radio.
Yeah, me too.
Like I'm weird. I'm all about education and kind of learning like any little tidbit that I can. And so I oftentimes can pick up little things just from whether it's Fat Cat or even one of the anglers.
Don't bring him into this. Don't bring him into this.
I gotta spread the wealth.
Yeah, you gotta throw it around. That's my boy. You gotta throw him in there. He does a great job.
Again, just like I can't remember what it was at Lake Norman now, but you were talking about KJ and something that he was doing on the bed. And again, I'm driving down the road. I don't even remember where I'm headed to, but I thought, and here, of course, lack of sleep. Like I can't even remember what it was, but I thought, man, that's a good little piece of information. Like I'll remember that. Of course, now I don't, but again, it's just, it's one of those deals that we're all still trying to figure out the best way to keep this entertaining and to do it the right way. And I think we're all doing great jobs, but it's just a hard thing to do. It's just one of those that, whether you go up north and we're catching a pile of those smallmouth, but you're out in the middle of the lake like that, it's hard to make it appealing to everyone. But
and I think sometimes people like things that are relatable, and I've seen this over the years. I've posted some saltwater. I love to saltwater fish. If you don't get to saltwater fish, you don't care anything about watching saltwater fish, And I think for some of the northern smallmouth things, I think if a guy lives in Texas and he never feels like he's going to have the opportunity to go there, maybe he's got a kayak. He doesn't even have a bass boat or fishes off the bank. He's like, I don't care if these guys are catching smallmouth. For me, my whole life, it's always been about the adventure. So I loved watching saltwater fishing shows as a kid, even before I'd been saltwater fishing. Kind of fell in love with saltwater fishing through watching guys like Mark Sosa and Jose Wahebe and I mean, Spanish Fly, like so many Flip Pallet. Oh my God, I can't believe I almost said Flip Pallet out of that. You know, Walker's K Chronicles. Like I grew up watching those, but I was always so intrigued by the Bassmasters or the FLW tour when it started, when they went to places that I'd never even dreamed I would ever get to go to. I was living through those guys, and now it seems like we're oversaturated almost, I guess. There's just so much content all the time that it's really taken some of that away almost, that if you don't think you're ever going to get to go there, well, I don't care. I don't care. It's not relatable. And I hate that, man, because dude, I can remember an FLW, Tommy Biffle won FLW championship in Moline, Illinois on the Mississippi River, and him and Davey Height fished side by side an FLW tour championship before they ever called it the Cup, in probably like 98. And they're both throwing scum frogs and duckweed. So my favorite tournaments of all time. And I thought, I'll never get to go to that, to Moline. Who goes to Moline, Illinois? I guarantee it's on that Lynn Dollar's YouTube channel.
Lynn Dollar.
Guarantee it's on there. But it is one of the greatest tournaments, not big weights. But I just think about stuff like that a lot. And I do think we've killed a little of that with live, obviously, with the hours and hours. But the relatable factor, the relatability, I think it's a big deal, and it's unfortunate that it comes down to that. And because look, ain't nothing changed in a smallmouth tournament between forward facing sonar and what we did 10 years ago. Nothing, except it was more drifting aimlessly, and you didn't get near as many dang bites.
Exactly.
You get a lot more bites.
Way less efficient.
Way less efficient.
Again, like I think, I'm always trying to figure out how to make this sport better. How can I leave this, in a better place than where I got into it, just as we all, I hope, do and think about. And man, it's just a weird culture we're living in right now. Like it just seems like people are way more interested and involved in something that is controversy or negative or like something crazy good happens and it just kind of gets thrown to the wayside. And
it's sad, man.
It's an unfortunate, and hey, that's way outside of even bass fishing as well.
Like it's everything. Yeah,
it's everything.
It's everything. And for me, I've been a guy that I've always tried to be as honest as I can be on this show in particular. Try to call at least my opinion, whether that's right or wrong. That's kind of been my reputation, I guess, in the industry. And I can be negative and have been negative. But what we're seeing right now is unprecedented. We're seeing it really, there's so many, and I'll call them buzzards, circling around, just making video after video after video. It's clickbait. They don't have real information. They're just projecting this negativity. They don't have sources. And they get a lot of views. And man, so that just makes them, well, they'll take a clip out of this and make something out of it. Like there's been nothing, but this has been one of my favorite episodes, man. I'll just tell you this, you've been an open book, Jake, and I appreciate the conversation, man, but it's sad to see. And I hate it. Look, whether you're catching them on a live scope over 50 feet of water or in 5 inches of water, I hate that the way we are catching bass makes you hate it or liked.
Correct.
It's like the goal is the same. We all want to learn how to catch more bass. That way, when we get to finally go, if we don't get to go as much as a pro, we can catch more. And I think we live in a time now that if you like to skip a jig under a dock, well, guess what? You can learn as much about that as you want to, and you can go do that Saturday. If you want to go live scope and shake your minnow, go do it. If you want to go through Jake's buzzbait, is that the Gerald Swindle buzzbait, by the way?
No, it's so we, Buckeye's got two, the G buzz that Gerald did. It's a little more stealthy, a little more quiet, and then the Buckeye Berserk buzzer is it's the one with a clacking head. It hits, comes back and hits the lead head. But kind of to go back to what you were talking about, and something that I am the most proud of, that trophy behind me. I have wanted one of those for as long as the BPT has been in inception, and would still like to have one of those blue trophies if we ever got over there on that side as well. Like those trophies and the money that comes with it, like those are all, immediately kind of in the moment are important to me. But ultimately, looking back at, I guess that was last week or two weeks ago now, like for 1 week, I did not see any negativity on social media to speak of anyway. Everything was super positive and about that event and kind of how it all unfolded. And if I've ever done anything of any importance, like at least I gave us a breath, a sigh of relief, in kind of this negative world that we're living in. And I'm sure somebody had something negative to say at some point, and I just didn't get it run across my feed. But
No,
I'm super happy over anything else. That trophy will sit in here for as long as we live in this house, and very few people will ever get to see it. But every time I look at that, like, I'm serious. It really bothers me and hurts my feelings that we've taken something that not only I, but you, and I hope everyone that's listening, a sport that we're all so, and I don't even mean a professional, like the sport of bass fishing. We've kind of turned something we're all so passionate and we all think about it way too much and focus on it, way too much. But
yeah,
we've just spun it into something that is just a weird, wild west of negativity, and
weird.
it doesn't have to be that way. Like
No,
we've
dude,
kind of gotten off the tracks, but man, it's so easy for us to all kind of get back to where we need to be. And I feel like we're more divided than we've ever been. And this industry is not big enough to be
no,
divided.
no, I
it seems
agree.
big looking
agree with that.
from the outside looking in, but you get in the industry, man, we're a small, tight knit little
Society.
group of people, and for us to all kind of have our look, I'm all for everyone having their own opinion, and if it doesn't follow mine, I'm okay with that. I'd love to even hear it, even if I know I'm probably going to disagree to some form or fashion. But it's just I hate to see that it almost feels like none of us are going to be happy no matter what the end result is,
Yeah.
and that's not a good place to be. I
No.
hope that we can somehow kind of get the ball rolling in the right direction here.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I really do. And there's a lot that's been going on lately. And for those that keep up, and I know you low lifers do each and every week, and I appreciate y'all. There's been a lot of stuff, and I've never done this in the history of doing this podcast, and I've just avoided lately because I just feel like if you want to see some negative crap, you can go see it right now about bass fishing. And again, I've stirred the pot for sure. Take full credit for it, and will always spoke my mind at times when I felt like I should, and hell, maybe sometimes I spoke it when I shouldn't have, But and I've said before in recent weeks, I'm like, if I led some of these goons to making the YouTube videos they do because they thought what I did was just that, then I apologize. If I had some kind of responsibility in that, I'm sorry. I never started this 8 years ago for that. I started this show for this tonight. People's stories, their life stories, educating about the sport, just telling stories from the road, different things, man. And it is sad that fishing saved my life from an early age. I would be scared to know what my life would have been had I never caught a bass on a buzzbait.
Yep.
True.
That's me. You can ask my wife. She is a lovely lady, but she does not want to be around me if I hadn't been fishing in a few days. Like, and I say a few days. Give me 2 weeks, and I'm tweaking. I got to go find a pond somewhere or something. Like I can't imagine not having that there. Like what person would I be? What would we all be? And again, it's just such a huge part of our being and what we are and who we want to be, and to let all this kind of be what it is now, it's interesting. But again, I love the low life group and everyone that all the listeners and yourself, man. You do a great job. You really do. You don't get enough credit where it's due there. You've done really good in educating us in kind of the know and what's going on, but we're not totally going down that road where it's all going to be negative and not so good. So
well, I tell you what, man, when I text you about doing this and you said, dude, that would be an honor, that meant more to me Cause I was just like, I'm like, who am I, first of all? Cause I was elated that you could do it. And also kudos to you for responding so quick after a big win. Cause I will tell you, man, it's hard sometimes to get a hold of guys, even guys I know really well, because you get such an influx of messages. And I know you did. You become one of the most popular dudes in the sport with it's one of the craziest stories that we've seen in a long time. And I really appreciated that, respected the heck out of that, man. And I appreciate the kind words. And one thing that I want to ask, because we got a question here from William, and William's a lowlifer. If you can divulge this, and I know that your buddy Jacob Walker, I know he talked about he was throwing a Davis shaky fish a little bit, and I know most of my buddies on the Tennessee River right now that fish below the dams, the Brewer crew, and some Donnie Becks of the world are saying no, don't say that. But William Davis shaky fish gets thrown a lot. But what is your scrounger of choice?
The Davis shaky fish, absolutely.
Okay.
It's okay. I've been I love William and both senior and junior.
Yeah, man.
But man, that bait is so good. It's hard to let the cat out of the bag on that. It's and we call it a scrounger. That's kind of the generic terminology. I think Aaron actually, originally started calling it the scrounger, even though it was the elite shaky fish or the shaky fish, from Davis Baits there. But that is just the most consistent. It's the most uniform. Maybe only 1 out of 10 is bad, whereas any other manufacturer, nothing wrong with them, but it's like 1 out of 20 is good. And so I don't know how they found or figured out the consistency factor there, but it's by far the best one. And, again, that was a big player there on Chickamauga, throwing that in a boot tail to even get to Nickajack. As well as there on day 2, at the tail race. I know a lot of guys are throwing it, and a lot of them are probably sending me a text right now that they wished I wouldn't have said that. But William Davis and that elite shaky fish, that is, as of right now, it may change tomorrow. We've always got cool things coming out all the time, but right now that's the cat's meow as far as scroungers, as far as I'm concerned.
As a Wilson and Wheeler dam rat a lot of my life, you and Jacob Walker really hurt my feelings this past weekend. Jacob was so much fun to watch, man. I like me some Jacob Walker.
Absolutely.
And I thought you sharing water with him was so cool. And Jacob on the final day talking about leaving, and then he catches one last second, like a 5-pounder. He's like, well, I guess that's my sign to stay for a little bit. There was a lot of cool things happening up there in my backyard that I really enjoyed. Somebody said, hang on, we got one more scrounger question here. Ryan, Will, talking about Will Davis, I think Will ties straight to the head instead of the snap.
Yeah, so I've always been a snap guy. And,
me too.
Jacob and I, it's a really cool, unique situation where this does not happen very often in professional fishing, at really, tournament fishing at any level. But we have found our own little niche, so to speak, with each other that, our lingo is the same. Our fishing abilities are complementary of each other. Like what he is really good at is I could go catch one doing that, but that's not what I've spent my entire life doing, and vice versa. And it's been a lot of fun. I actually met Jacob. We fished the same drain together in the Taquaras Invitational at the first event there at Rayburn. And we kind of literally got to know each other as we were passing each other in and out of this drain, so to speak. And the friendship just kind of grew. And by, I guess, Kentucky Lake events, 3rd or 4th stop there, he was, staying with us. And it's been it's almost like the Johnston's brothers, it was, I've never had anybody, even my old team partners, I never felt like I could work with as well as what I can work with Walker. And, we just get each other. I understand when he explains something or I explain something to him, we completely understand what that is. And somehow we have been able to utilize the information that each other swap back and forth. In this case, it was an absolute, like, man, you just need to come, because again, we roomed together there at Red Crest probably a month ago or so at Gunnersville. Both had great events. And we, again, utilized each other back and forth. BPT is a little bit different. You can't get quite as specific But it's fine. A lot of times our information is not like go to this point and sit right here and throw there.
Yeah.
It's more generalized information, but it's very much two minds working in unison out there, and we're essentially doubling our practice days over any other competitor. And again, it's just so unique that we can both make it work and both end up having good tournaments because of it. But I'll never forget, he was asking about Pickwick at Redcrest, and we were kind of strategizing. And I said, man, there's no question. I guided down there a bunch, back in the day, spent a tremendous amount of time idling out there. I know where most of those groups get. And I said, man, the best thing, the most efficient thing for you to do is to not go look for these, because you're going to spend an hour looking for a place I can show you in 30 seconds. Let me just go idle over it. Let me establish kind of what's out here. You go figure out something else kind of as a backup, because who the first or second week of May wouldn't think that there'd be a handful, at the very least, a handful of schools out.
Yeah.
And so, the plan going into this event was really for Jacob to try to find kind of a secondary pattern, but ultimately, for really the whole event, but specifically day 2 is what we were really concerned about as far as getting on some of these groups. And so we were really planning on it kind of working out the opposite of what it did. But huge shout out. Can't give Walker enough credit there. It was, a really unique thing came in that night, kind of half spun out. I caught my fish day 1 in the Invitational really quick. 10:30, 11 o'clock, I had almost 25. And so it really enabled me to go practice. And, man, every day I would go out there and look, knowing that the guy that found the first couple groups were probably odds are going to be the guy that wins. And by the end of day 1, it was just not materializing. Like there was not, I'm not going to say there wasn't a bass out there, but there was not a group from Waterloo to the lower end, to the dam, more or less. It just, for whatever reason, the water conditions were not set up for it. And I'll never forget, he said, man, don't worry about it. He said, just come up here. I got a little wing wall. You can catch you something on, like it's just, the confidence of knowing, all right, we're good, we'll survive. Like I was by no means wanting to go down there and even really thinking that I would catch a big bag by any means. I was just more in survival mode and quite frankly, like, let's get this tournament behind us. This is not how I wanted this event to go. And, to kind of give a little more context there, we had high water, like almost a foot high in practice, but you could watch it every day. It was dropping. And with all of us, the experience that we have there on the TVA, like you get anywhere close to summer pool and there's no water on anything up there. So every bite you get, is just a waste. Like it's, there'll be some fish caught shallow, but this is absolutely not how it's going to be won. And probably most of the top 10 are not even going to be doing it. So it was, again, huge shout out to Walker, but it is so much fun for us to fish tournaments, the same tournament together. And he's super fun to hang out with, super great dude. But man, I just look forward to each one of those events, bouncing ideas off. I usually, kind of get a little squirrely and go off and do something crazy. And Walker's pretty quick about jerking me back where I need to be and kind of keeping me straight. I practice a little bit differently than a lot of people in that I want to know kind of where they are, but I mainly want to know where they're not, because when I get super dialed, like I've done this long enough now to know that when you get super dialed on the first or second day of practice, by for sure the second or third day of the event, anything that was of winnable, had that winning capability to it, it's never going to last more than 2 or 3, 4 days at the most. And so I almost kind of want to get a gauge or a feel of where some of them are, where the majority aren't, so that as I start to let the tournament materialize and kind of refine these fish and readjust, I know where none of them have been. So like, I'm not going to go back and do that. We know that's not the direction they win. And it's a unique kind of way of doing it, but it keeps it all level in my head. I don't know how I've kind of worked myself into that, mantra of practice, but it really seems to work for me. And it just allows me to get a gauge of where things are happening, where they're not, where they're most likely to kind of shift to. And again, Walker's got a totally different, like, he's going to go find the very best deal and he's going to dial in every little thing that he can about it. And if it changes, then he'll just go refigure it out on that given day. Whereas, like, I'm almost planning ahead for that change before it ever even happens. So again, it's just the two of us working together, man. It's pretty incredible. Like, we've not had very many bad tournaments since we started doing this.
Excuse me. Seems to be a dangerous combo. I got to get Jacob on here at some point. I didn't have him on after he won Tackle Warehouse last year at Champlain, but well, hey, look, we got a special guest in the comments, Jake. Mark McQuaw coming in. The Toyota Series man himself. Jake is a bad man in the comments. And Mark, it's almost bedtime. You've got a tournament to run in the morning, sir. It gets daylight early these days. Toyota Series kicking off at Gunnersville for a absolute smash fest starting tomorrow. I got to spend me about 3 days over there on the Big G last week, and they biting about any way you want to catch them. They biting. They were last week anyways, and that one's going to be a fun one. There's no doubt about it. Jake, dude, I appreciate you so much. I've kept you for a long time tonight, man. And we're getting people in the comments saying best LBL of the year, a ton of throwing you your proper flowers, as my kids say. And dude, I've always been impressed with you, keeping up with you, and getting to watch you on camera so much this year has been a good time. And I know there's going to be a lot more of it. And I wish you the best of luck the rest of the year. And if you're ever bored on Pickwick and you get to the ramp and you don't have anybody to go out there with you, listen, I'll go blindfolded and whatever I need to do, son. Just call me. I'm right up the road.
Let's do it.
I'll make a heck of a net, man, and I'll bring sandwiches.
I like mustard, not mayo.
Exactly. Oh, and I promise, here's Mark McCoy again, and I promise to keep us away from the sharks. You got to watch them bull sharks. Now, listen.
I'm telling you.
There was 2.7 million people that saw them bull sharks on Facebook, Mark.
Is that not the craziest thing? Like the most not unrelatable post, but like the most irrelevant. Those are always the ones. It's so cool.
Listen, just real quick as we end, Darian and I did that 10 seconds, dude, 10-second video. I'm just doing it. I'm going to send it to my boys, like to mess with my kids. It was all Darian was filming it. That's why Darian was filming his own video. And as the boat's moving, it just looks like it's moving. Well, I told him, I said, dude, I'm fixing to post this. And I said, bull spacebar shark, like knowing that's the joke. Like that was the joke. And dude, it had been up about 15 minutes and it was like at 40,000 views. And I said, uh-oh. I've got 5 or 6 videos that have done over 1 million over the years. And you can always tell, like, here we go. This one's getting out of our normal reach, and, it's been a fun week just jacking with people on it. You can't comment. There's so many comments. You can't comment back to everybody, but the people that have direct messaged me like, hey man, I swim on Gunnersville all the time. Are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, be careful. You should be careful. Don't flip. Don't wear your flippers. Don't be out there looking like a whopper plopper. You in trouble.
Tell you, I love going to the beach, but I can't help but thinking I look like a Zara spook every time I go back there. I've pretended to be that prey so many times. I never want to be it.
Yeah. You're close to it out there. Trust me. And they always real close to you. They're way closer than you ever think most of the time. Jake Lawrence, I appreciate you, dude, very much. Y'all make sure you're following Jake on all social media. Does a great job. He keeps things real current. He's always posting and always got some good stuff on there. So Jake Lawrence Fishing, right? Everywhere, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Jake Lawrence Fishing on everything. Jake, man, I wish you the best of luck the rest of the year. And thanks for joining us, low lifers.
Well, thank you again. It has been an honor, and I so much look forward to us doing another one. And I will be giving you a call. Don't forget my
mustard. I will bring it. I will bring it. And the next episode's in person. We're going to do one in the bar and grill right here.
Perfect. Let's do it. Sounds great. Right. Thanks, guys.
Jake Lawrence, everybody, right there, man. What a dude. What an absolutely impressive angler in person. Again, make sure you're following him if you're not. He's a real one in a sport that, in my opinion, needs it right now. We need that kind of positivity, and we need the Jake Lawrences. And again, he's a forward-facing sonar master. Okay, he is, but he's been catching them long before it, man. And to get his biggest win of his career on a buzzbait when he can only use forward facing for 2.5 hours of his day. Really, really impressive. dude right there. And I appreciate him spending so much time and being so open with us here on Low Budget Live. Thank you guys. My voice is, it held up better than I thought it would, but we're getting there. It's getting a little weak. So I'm going to take you out with some Biloxi Blues, and I'll see y'all next week. Appreciate you. We got MPFL next week. Lots going on. Toyota Series at Gunnersville. It's going to be a smash fest. And then, Sabine River at the Elites. Will they cancel and schedule on top of MPFL? We shall see. All right. Take you out with some Biloxi Blues. Y'all know the drill. See ya. Thank y'all. More than anything, thank y'all. Appreciate y'all.
Spanish moss, a Civil War ghost. Well, I'm gonna leave them in the past. Any direction, Lord, I'll be fine. It don't matter east or west.